You're listening to the N2K Space Network.
Quick question. Do your end users always, and I mean always without exception, work on company-owned devices and IT-approved apps? I didn't think so. So my next question is, how do you keep your company's data safe when it's sitting on all those unmanaged apps and devices? 1Password has an answer to this question: Extended Access Management. 1Password Extended Access Management helps you secure every sign-in for every app on every device because it solves the problems traditional IAM and MDM can't touch. And it's now available to companies with Okta and Microsoft Entra and in beta for Google Workspace customers. Check it out at 1password.com/cyberwire. That's 1password.com/cyberwire.
Every few months, we get to report on yet another new valuation for SpaceX. And exactly no one listening is ever going to be surprised that the number keeps going up. Just a few months ago, the per-share price of SpaceX was $112. The new number 3 months later, yeah, it's a lot higher. Why? Did something major happen in the last 3 months?
T-minus 20 seconds to LOS speed rest. Go for deploy. Roger roll.
Today is December 11th, 2024. I'm Maria Varmazis, and this is T-minus. SpaceX is valued at $350 billion. Maxar and Satellogic agree to partner on national security missions. Boryung invests in intuitive machines. And our guest today is AJ Gemmer, co-founder and CTO at Lunar Outpost. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Here is your Intel briefing. Bloomberg has an exclusive look at an insider share transaction over at SpaceX, with the company and its investors buying $1.25 billion of insider shares. That transaction puts the latest valuation of the per-share price for SpaceX at $185 per share, making the company worth roughly $350 billion in all. And that is a big boost in just 3 months from the previous $112 per share valuation. Exhibit A in how Elon Musk-owned businesses are getting a big boost from the results of the U.S. presidential election. According to the Bloomberg exclusive, SpaceX is also looking to buy nearly $500 million worth of its common stock. And of course, SpaceX is rarely out of global headlines for long, thanks to its increased launch cadence over the last few years. And in the last few months was SpaceX Starship's flight number 6. No chopstick catch for the booster, but there was a banana for scale. And over at Starbase, prep work is underway for test flight number 7, expected for January. We'll be keeping an eye out for testing on Ship 33, which will be the very first Block 2 version of Starship to be tested, with a number of modifications made on the ship design from what SpaceX has learned from all of the tests on the Block 1 version. Maxar Intelligence and Satellogic are teaming up to support U.S. national security missions. The companies have announced a tasking, data licensing, and distribution agreement that enhances Maxar's ability to deliver monitoring and change detection insights in near real time for the U.S. government and the government's partners around the world. The agreement grants Maxar exclusive rights to task Satellogic's high revisit constellation and use its cost-effective satellite imagery to support national security missions. Matt Turman, president of Satellogic, added to the press release that this agreement with Maxar is a watershed moment in Earth observation, providing crucial capacity to warfighters and allies. Combining our constellation with Maxar's expertise enables comprehensive monitoring and analytics to meet the demand for actionable intelligence. South Korean pharmaceutical company Boryung has invested $10 million in Intuitive Machines. Boryung has shared in a press release that it'll participate in Intuitive Machines' $65 million underwritten public offering through a concurrent private placement, acquiring over 950,000 shares of Class A common stock. And they're not the only ones looking to invest in the first private company to land on the moon. Other U.S. and global institutional investors are expected to participate in the public offering under the same terms as Boryung. Boryung established a strategic partnership with Intuitive Machines in December last year to explore the possibility of building essential infrastructure for life science research on and around the moon. The two companies have also signed an MOU to develop a platform for space healthcare experiments using Intuitive Machines' lunar lander and lunar terrain vehicle designed for NASA's Artemis program. Following its launch last week, ESA's Copernicus Sentinel-1C satellite shared its first radar images. The images of the Earth showcase some of the satellite's capabilities for environmental monitoring. The first images feature regions of interest, and the first image was captured just 56 hours and 23 minutes after liftoff, and features Svalbard, which is a remote Norwegian archipelago in the Arctic Ocean. The image demonstrates Sentinel-1C's ability to monitor ice coverage and environmental changes in harsh and isolated regions. Viasat successfully demonstrated direct-to-device satellite connectivity for the first time in the United Arab Emirates. The communications giant used the Abu Dhabi Space Debate event to send satellite-enabled two-way messages and SOS messages to attendees. It is the third successful demonstration of Viasat's technology this quarter, following similar tests in both India and Saudi Arabia. RF communications company Gorilla RF has announced a 125% year-over-year growth in its satellite communications business. The company says the growth has been largely driven by the increasing demand for Gorilla RF's products in direct-to-cellular satellite applications. And we're sure that as demand grows, we'll be hearing more from companies like Gorilla RF. China conducted a static firing test of its XZY-1 verification rocket, also known as Space Epoch, last week. The XZY-1 rocket, developed by Beijing Jianyuan Technology, is China's first medium-lift launch vehicle with a stainless steel rocket body. It's powered by liquid oxygen methane engines and is aiming to be recoverable after an ocean splashdown. According to Chinese media, the test involved full-power static firing that lasted 20 seconds, during which its 70-ton class liquid oxygen methane engine was ignited and operated as planned. And staying in China, the China Aerospace Science and Technology Corporation says it's preparing to launch a newly developed rocket, the Long March 8A-Y1, in January. The vehicle was loaded onto a ship earlier this week to be transported to the Wenchang satellite launch site in South China's island province of Hainan. The Long March 8A is expected to become the main rocket type used for China's future space launches to the low Earth and medium Earth orbits. And satellite company Astranis says they have delivered 4 satellites to Cape Canaveral ahead of a dedicated SpaceX launch, which is expected later this month. Astranis says that SpaceX is targeting December 17th for the Falcon 9 mission, and the 4 Astranis micro-geo satellites will support a number of customers, including 2 satellites which will support in-flight connectivity for Anuvu. You'll find links to all the stories mentioned in the show in the selected reading section of our show notes or over at space.n2k.com. Hey, T-Minus crew, if you find this podcast useful, please do us a favor and share a 5-star rating and short review in your favorite podcast app. It'll help other space professionals like you to find the show and join the T-Minus crew. Thank you so much, everybody. We really appreciate it.
Identity architects and engineers, modernize your identity systems with Strata. Integrate legacy apps with any IDP, ensure seamless identity failover, and apply MFA without touching app code. Strata offers robust, efficient identity management, reducing tech debt and enhancing security. Gain peace of mind and operational efficiency with Strata's comprehensive solutions. Visit strata.io/cyberwire, share your biggest identity challenge, and enjoy free AirPods Pro. Optimize your identity solutions today. Visit strata.io/cyberwire. And our thanks to Strata for being a longtime friend and supporter of this podcast.
Our guest today is AJ Gemmer, co-founder and CTO at Lunar Outpost. I asked AJ to tell us more about how Lunar Outpost was founded.
I'm the co-founder and chief technology officer of Lunar Outpost. I have always been both a space buff and a car guy, so lunar rovers were sort of a natural thing to me. I'm very excited to be in this position where I get to work on, cutting edge technology, but still, be able to go back to some of my roots, building and restoring cars with my dad. And we've had a really great time. A bit about my background. I went to the University of Colorado at Boulder, CU Boulder, for aerospace. And while I was there, began working at the Laboratory for Atmospheric and Space Physics, LASP. And that gave me a great appreciation for space science instruments and their needs, and kind of what the future looked like for space. And during that time, I got really interested in the moon and space resources. And so, together with my co-founders, we came up with the concept for Lunar Outpost, which was to develop technologies and robotic systems that enable a sustainable presence on the moon and also provide benefits to people here on Earth.
That is an awesome origin story. Thank you, AJ. I appreciate that. And how cool that you get to merge your two loves in what you do every day. That is the best. That's the dream right there. And congratulations to you and your whole team really on the contract that you all were awarded from NASA earlier this year. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Absolutely. The Lunar Terrain Vehicle program is really the latest in NASA's Artemis campaign, in this case to provide mobility for astronauts when they're on the moon. So just like in the Apollo days when we had the Lunar Roving Vehicle, the LRV, which allowed the Apollo astronauts to greatly increase the science they were able to do and the exploration and ground that they covered on the moon, the Lunar Terrain Vehicle is the next iteration of that, carrying 2 astronauts and a wealth of payloads, both scientific and commercial, to a huge number of sites of interest all over the moon. Using the LTV, we're just going to learn things at an unprecedented pace about the lunar environment, particularly the lunar South Pole, which is, very interesting from a scientific and a commercial perspective.
That's so cool. And can you tell me a bit about the challenges of the lunar terrain? I think many of us have an idea of it in our heads, but we're not in the world as much as you are. So, what are you all facing, and what kind of challenges are you trying to overcome?
The moon is a challenging and harsh environment for anything to operate in, much less a mobile system like a rover. So there will be elements like the lunar dust, which is very sharp and abrasive. It's harmful to seals and the specialized coatings that we use in aerospace. So dust mitigation is an area that we really specialize in, and protecting our rovers and robotic systems and our payloads as well. The moon also has very large changes in its thermal environment. It gets very hot during the lunar day and very cold during the lunar night. And some of those areas on the moon that are particularly interesting are called permanently shadowed regions. They're areas where the sun never hits and therefore are extremely cold, down to approaching absolute zero. And those areas tend to hold volatiles like water. So they're very interesting scientifically. If we want to extract resources on the moon, we need to develop hardware that can get down into those PSRs and access that. And dealing with those thermal challenges is another big thing that Lunar Outpost really specializes in. Furthermore, surviving the lunar night is a challenge as well, because not only is it cold, it's very long, up to 2 Earth weeks at the lunar equator. And those long duration cold temperatures require a lot of power to survive, which again is a big challenge to robots on the moon.
That is a fascinating set of challenges. I imagine work is both challenging and very fun, trying to figure out solutions to all these really intricate issues. But that sounds like the dream, honestly. So that sounds really cool. Can you tell me a little bit about also? I'm skipping around a little bit here, but the Lunar Dawn Science Council. This sounds like sort of a meeting of the minds to get to explore some possible solutions to these fascinating challenges. But why don't you tell me a bit about it?
Yeah, the Lunar Dawn Science Council is a concept we came up with really to make sure that we were addressing NASA's needs for science and science instrumentation, science targets when we designed our lunar terrain vehicle. So we chose to invite we chose to invite Arizona State University to chair our science council along with a number of other esteemed institutions and provide input on the question of, if you could go anywhere on the moon and do anything, where would you want to go? Where can you do the most science and the best science? And how do we get your instruments to those points? And that is resulting in a lunar terrain vehicle that is really optimized and designed to meet NASA science goals, but also the goals of universities and educational institutions and commercial customers who want to put their payloads aboard our lunar terrain vehicle.
That's fascinating. Okay. So when you think long term about the work that you all are doing, what does success look like to you? What are your long term goals there?
Oh, I think success looks like a thriving lunar economy with hundreds or thousands of people living and working full time on the moon. That's really what I'd love to see in my lifetime. And in order to make that happen, we need readily available launch and landing services, which are well underway, as well as reliable mobility solutions on the lunar surface. So that's the piece that Lunar Outpost chose to address and really advance and push forward as fast and as safely and as cost effectively as we can to bring that thriving lunar ecosystem to life.
Awesome. Well, thank you, AJ. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. I like to make sure that my guests get the last word. So if there's anything that you wanted to leave our audience with, anything you want to tell them, anything we didn't cover that you wanted to mention, by all means.
Well, I think we are witnessing a second space race right now. So for younger generations, including kids in school, this is the time to be a part of the next leap in humanity, exploring the moon, our solar system, and really bringing the future to life.
We'll be right back.
Esse podcast é um oferecimento de Samsung Galaxy AI. E sabe o que mais ele te oferece? Que tal uma nova maneira de buscar na internet a partir de fotos ou do que está na sua tela? Fácil, fácil. Viu? Circulou? Encontrou. Ou quem sabe um assistente de notas para gravar reuniões, transcrever gravações e organizar, produzindo resumos eficientes. Tem tanta coisa que o Samsung Galaxy AI pode fazer por você. Clique aí no banner para descobrir o que. Galaxy AI, a inteligência artificial nas suas mãos.
Welcome back. A lot of times, space stories make us go, "ah," or "ah," but it's not as often they make me go, "ah." And we mentioned it a few months ago, but ExoLaunch of Germany is helping give organizations from developing countries the opportunity to deploy their own 1U to 3U sized CubeSats, complete with full technical support via the company's ExoPod system. And ExoLaunch is doing this through the UN Office for Outer Space Affairs, or UNOSA's Access to Space for All program, which is helping nations to develop space capabilities from building satellites to establishing space agencies. And together, ExoLaunch and UNOSA hope to open new doors for countries eager to launch their own space programs, building expertise and fostering international cooperation all along the way. The ExoLaunch program officially kicked off at the beginning of the year, with applications opening over the summer. And we're mentioning the story again today because the first round window of opportunity to apply to this program officially closes at the end of this month, December 31st. And we want to make sure that people know about it. The Access to Space for All project has had a number of awardees in the past, but no one has been officially picked yet for this ExoPod iteration of the project. So if you're interested, you can hop to for more information on this story via the link in our show notes. That's it for T-Minus for December 11th, 2024, brought to you by N2K Cyberwire. For additional resources from today's report, check out our show notes at space.n2k.com. We'd love to know what you think of this podcast. You can email us at space@n2k.com or submit the survey in the show notes. Your feedback ensures we deliver the information that keeps you a step ahead in the rapidly changing space industry. N2K's Strategic Workforce Intelligence optimizes the value of your biggest investment, your people. We make you smarter about your team while making your team smarter. This episode was produced by Alice Carruth. Our associate producer is Liz Stokes. We are mixed by Elliot Peltzman and Trey Hester with original music by Elliot Peltzman. Our executive producer is Jennifer Eiben. Our executive editor is Brandon Karpf. Simone Petrella is our president, Peter Kilpie is our publisher, and I am your host, Maria Varmazes. Thanks for listening. We'll see you tomorrow.
T-minus